Hey everyone, welcome to a new Timeline Park contest video. 14 players have finished stage 12 of the contest, which is also the final stage of the timeline. In this video I will show you what they created and I will read their stories, so we can see how they finished up their park. In a few weeks we will find out how their parks were rated by the community. Anyway, let's go and check out these stage 12 parks. Okay, the first story is from Astro Third. The king was old. His days of expanding his empire were over. He was ready to turn over control of the kingdom to the people themselves. His last act as a ruler was to install one more thrilling ride for the people. His wizards had developed the ability to launch trains without the assistance of gravity. The new ride, Conquest, was a final jewel in the collection of the Confluence. With his people satisfied, his kingdom safe, and his legacy secure, the king left his throne behind and set out to live the rest of his days in a manor constructed for him right here in the once wild Confluence. Alright, the next story is from Bags. Now I'll make sure to have a character limit for the stories of next year's Timeline Park contest. Anyway, let's get started with this story. Chapter 12, 1999. Renovations to prepare the Elysium Hippodrome for another millennium. The Elysium Hippodrome, once a traveling circus in the late 19th century that traveled across Europe to entertain the rich aristocracy. During the interbellum, the Elysium Hippodrome bought a piece of hunting grounds from a rich nobleman to set up their circus at a fixed location. Post-World War II, they installed an old Virginia rail coaster to attract more guests. In the next few years, it became a notable tourist hotspot. During the Cold War, the park evolved into a circus-theme-inspired attraction park. Now that European wars have ended, the park can look back as an early survivor in the amusement industry. Capitalism prevailed during the war times, and the park has some old rides that need restorative attention to stay in business. The Elysium Hippodrome board decided to renovate a large part of the oldest section of the park, being the middle of the park area. Several old buildings were restyled, and Carousel Gallopers has moved nearer to the entrance of the park. On its location, Spiral Slide, the Twirl, and the renamed Space Rings ride, Hooping, had been refurbished and were incorporated to form a new large playground area where several new rides had been built. A setback was that the SABS Coaster Inspection Agency had found some major issues with the latest coaster, Flying Trapeze. Part of the layout had to be redone and the coaster had to be completely repainted. In the area around the coaster area, new facilities and a mirror maze were built. Also, the Human Cannonball Act was the newest show of the park in that area, where a cannon fires stuntmen into Lake Lucky. Next to the cannon launched freefall ride, Zazel can be found. Zazel is the name of the first Human Cannonball Act ever, which was a young woman of only 14 years old. She tragically broke her back during one of the performances that ended her relatively short-lived career. Lastly, the Tower of Flames freefall had new rails and foundations. An elephant parade went through a complete makeover with an altered layout and a completely new station. This makeover resulted in extra space for Ferris wheel Ringmaster to arise at the foot of the small lake. Ringmaster gives a spectacular view over the park all the way up to the circus show of the Elysium Hippodrome where it all began. All in all, the Elysium Hippodrome made huge efforts and will be ending the millennium with a big bang. Okay, the next story is from my park. It had been 40 years since James had started transforming part of the Durkling family orchard into an amusement park, and James knew his time was drawing near. He had worked on his dream for years, but his body had become frail. James had achieved a lot in his lifetime, becoming the owner of the entire Durkling family orchard, designing and constructing his own wooden roller coaster, and even building a roller coaster which had several inversions. Finally, the moment everyone knew was coming was there. James Durkling had sadly passed away. In his will, James left the entire park to his son, James Jr. Jr. had helped out a lot in the park in the years before his father's death, so he had been taught all the tricks there were to know. He just hoped he could live up to his father's reputation. Junior would often visit the hill behind the park where his father was buried, to ask for guidance or simply for a moment of relative peace and quiet. Over the next months, several competing amusement park branches came with offers of huge amounts of money to take over the park. But Junior was determined to make Durkling Family Orchard even better than it had ever been before. Okay, the next story is from Fidwell. Though attendance was higher than ever, the staff of Little Sluggers wasn't resting on their laurels just yet. The quest for the next big family attraction continued. Over the years, the shape of the park had gradually changed, as it gained new attractions and changed owners. Years ago, the original entrance by the golf course was closed down, as Dynagas made their entrance the official front gate. Now, to direct guests around the area more efficiently, a grand new entrance plaza by the old parking lot was opened, as a tribute to the park's early days. To celebrate these expansions, they also added a stunning new ride, a Gerstlauer spinning coaster that takes up the remaining land. With these new additions and enhancements, we end our adventure alongside Little Sluggers. From their lowly beginnings as a family mini-golf and batting cages attraction, through their disputes with neighboring Dynagas, to becoming the regional powerhouse they are today, Little Sluggers has been through it all. Who knows what may lie in store for the future? Whatever it may bring, rest assured that many happy years of family amusements will thrill guests for generations to come. Alright, the next story is from Herbert. The hypercoaster was a massive success for Ronglua. Attendance skyrocketed with enthusiasts from all around the world wanting to ride this standout attraction. Andung thought for a while about the last bit of land he had available. Having bought all the rice fields around the park, he was constrained by hills and swampy landscape, which was just not firm enough to allow further expansion of the park. So his last expansion had to be good. In the end, he went for a launched coaster with inversions and another flat ride, a Larsen loop. With these additions, the park would be almost perfect. Andung sat back in his chair and was happy about his beautiful park and the journey that led him there. Thanks for taking part in this journey, everyone. Alright, the next story is from Jean-Pierre Nova. As the construction plan came to an end, the park wanted to have a big banger to end it, with strong reports from guests saying that the Sky Coaster was becoming a tough and rough ride. So the park's first plan was to just retrack. But with the car park that was beyond repair, they park toughed it can be used to get more attractions. So they removed Sky the coaster and get building straight away. The park extended on the Little Tot theme with a new coaster which tells story about the climate. Also, some new flat rides opened at the new section and a bicycle route. This ride provides a clam and great view which you can get when riding the ride. Also, when you ride it, it will gain energy for the park, doing it eco-friendly. With a rough start and end, the park can be very happy about what they have achieved. Hope to see you next year. The next story is from Adrian 1994. After a tense off-season, the park managed to successfully protect themselves from the harsh weather. The park had thoroughly supported the coastline and also had time and money left over to further develop the clifftop area of the park. As a counterpoint to the thrilling attractions from last season, which had proven to be popular, the management team concluded that additional family-friendly offerings in a garden setting would help raise attendance further. The main new attraction was the scenic family ride Kefalonian Cats, which takes guests around the beautiful landscapes of the popular Greek island of Kefalonia. Additionally, the park developed a beautiful sunken hedge maze and a quirky crooked house attraction too. Finally, the park also added a spectacular new restaurant which offers stunning vistas of the harbor. It was at times like this when the workers of the park realized just how far the park had come in the 12 years of its operation so far. Although the garden still took a prominent role in the park had changed so much over the years developing from a tiny, pretty seaside park to a giant, immersively themed resort park with almost 25 attractions, including 6 awesome roller coasters. Although the park's available land was now fully developed, the park's creative team had plenty of ideas of how to further improve the park heading forward. However, the management team desired a new challenge and are going to lay the foundations of a new amusement park in an exciting new location. See you all in 2022. And the next story is from Ricardo Vordo. As Kingdom Reach grew and grew, with more additions being added and added, John and Maria thought there was one thing left that could finally bring the entire park together, and what would have made Ricky McWordo happy if he was among the living. Ricky's vision was that Kingdom Ridge would be a place for everyone to be happy. So John and Maria decided to build a vacation park based on one of Ricky's most favorite places to be, a small fishing town called Urk. They based all the buildings on the buildings that can be found on the former island. As the vacation park needed a mascot and an entertainment team, so they made the character Ridder Ricky, a knight of Kasteel Almere, who goes on secret missions with funny antics every day. The vacation park brought the whole resort together, and finally the children of Ricky McWordo were satisfied. Alright, the next story is from Savvy Adam. Savvyton Harbor is excited to announce the largest expansion yet. For the last little while, Savvyton Harbor has been working with Parks Canada to open up the old fort on the island in the middle of the harbor, Fort Adam. Parks Canada has restored Fort Adam and is now welcoming visitors to Fort Adam on Fort Adam Island. In order to get visitors to the island, the old Savvyton Harbor tours was changed to a ferry service. The older boats were sold and a new bigger boat was purchased to ferry visitors back and forth. During the restoration of Fort Adam, underground tunnels were discovered in the fort and on the island. Wonder what these could lead to. The old marina, which was not getting much use, was converted into jet ski rentals, where guests can now whiz around the harbor on jet skis. There are even 2 jumps, where you can try, if you are brave enough, which jumps over the channel that the Fort Adam Island ferry uses. Better make sure you get enough speed to make the jump. A new full-service restaurant opened up at the end of the boardwalk, Rum Runners. This new restaurant gives views of the harbor and offers a wide menu of food and drinks. In addition to the opening of Fort Adam, the new jet ski rentals and the Rum Runners restaurant, 3 new rides were also added. Guests can race with their friend on the all-new 750 meters long Savvyton Harbor Raceway. Looking for something a bit more thrilling? Then step up to the new Topspin Wipeout, which will twist and flip guests in every which way, and you may even get a little wet. Still looking for something even more thrilling? Then what about being shot up into the air at over 115 km per hour to a height of 115 meters? You can do all this on Slingshot. Okay, the next story is from Soap and Butter Sandwich. The scientists had one more coaster designed to build. They were inspired by a roller coaster at a park called Fantastic Land Magic Land, where the trains are below the track, but the trains are in a flying position. They started building the new coaster over by the air hangar and have it fly along the length of the base towards the invert before heading back. They are most proud of the drop, as it was very different from everything else in the park and was very intense while riding. The coaster also went straight over the new entrance, so scavengers could get hyped to return to the base and get on some coasters to relax. They named the coaster Scrap Plane in honor of the air hangar that they all started in. The coaster also featured the most advanced support they had made. They went for a simpler design than the other coaster as the steel supply was beginning to run low. The coaster was a huge success with the survivors, and with this coaster, the scientists, for now, can say that they have achieved everything they wanted to do, but I'm sure they're going to be something else to design and build in the future. Alright, Swag Titties also managed to build his stage 12 entry in time, which is great. So let's read out the story. Wings and Things Fun Fair has reached its goal. Over 1 million guests served. Holy cow, what an achievement. After Icarus was installed, the park management focused on filling up the property with attractions that guests wanted. They loved the vintage cars, but wanted a more exhilarating experience. Speedway 500 is an epic go-kart racetrack where park goers can control their own experience. Interestingly, most guests preferred Rowdy Red's Bank Heist shooting dark ride, so the Haunted Manor was added to improve the park's well-themed dark ride lineup. It was not a shooting dark ride, but it sure does scare the guests. Not sure what the future holds, but Swaggart Titterton stays ready, especially with his new warehouse facility near the family area of the park. He hired an old experienced pal who used to work in the warehouse industry to build it for him. What a wild ride this was. From the humble beginnings to the extreme heights, this adventure will never be forgotten. Thank you all so much for taking part. It's such a fantastic experience. Love, Swag Titties. Okay, the next story is from The Shack. Now that Mr. Fantastic knows his true purpose, the aliens could not let him live. They decided that the best course of action was to reset his brain. They admitted that this was not the first time this was done to him, however it would not matter, as he would soon forget everything. They strapped him up to the machine and zap! The machine buzzed and whirred and the lights flickered. Mr. Fantastic fell asleep. When Mr. Fantastic woke up, he still remembered everything that had been done. The park, the aliens, and most importantly, that his home planet was destroyed. He could not let anyone know he knew these things though. He was determined this time to figure out who was in charge of the operation. He was determined to get to the bottom of the conspiracy and end this cycle he was prisoned in. However, he knew that for now he had to keep going and keep building. He decided to redo the storybook village and add a wooden roller coaster. Good, now nobody suspects a thing. I wonder what will happen to Mr. Fantastic next. Okay, the next story is from Trumafaria. Now he had some health issues, but he managed to complete his park in time. About a year ago, these lands were in extremely poor shape. The water was contaminated, the forest had started to wither away, and the wildlife was eradicated from the vicinity. A man with a vision turned the whole place upside down and kicked out the corrupt corporation that once owned the ground where Lakeland emerged. Tycoon Trumafarium, along with his lawyer, made sure to follow every step according to the book, and even had the corporation owners put in prison for their major misconduct. The park's anniversary is around the corner, and a way to kick this upcoming New Year's up a notch, our Tycoon Trumafarium decided to invite his own band, 7th Dimension, to perform on the stage. Luckily he got there on time, with minor scratches on his car. Probably the last addition to the park was recently added. A completely man-made island was constructed. To get to the island you must take the shuttle boats. On the very island itself, 2 new unique rides have been added. A rotation tower drop and a water scooter rental, so that now fresh water can be taken in by the guests for real. Besides this, there was a new kids coaster built next to Preemptive Strike. All in all, the park was a success, and our Tycoon Trumafarium will most likely end up finding a new project sometime soon. Thank you for visiting Lakeland. Alright, and here's the final story from Seklar. With Jormungandr ready, Seklar's park is now one of the best theme parks in the world. To finish things up, the last spots of the park needs to be filled. First on the list was the corner next to Old Nosgoth. Seklar thought it would be a nice idea to make a monster truck area that goes through the mud and the hills. Now just one more spot needed to be filled. There was no place for another big coaster, but a family-friendly twist and a new steel wild mouse fitted perfectly. Years have now passed, and Seklar can look back on a very successful project. What started as an empty plot of land with only a merry-go-round, a top spin, a launch freefall and some shops, now stands a booming theme park worthy of competing with the big theme parks around the world. As for the future, that, my friends, might be for another story. Alright, those were all the Stage 12 parks that I received for the Timeline Park contest. Soon all these parks will be rated, and then we will know how much everybody liked all these parks. Alright, I hope you enjoyed seeing all these entries. If you liked this video, please consider giving it a like. It will really help out my channel. I hope you enjoyed the video, and I'll see you again in the next one. See you later.